The website that we will be building in this course can be found at buildnextshop.com. And while this is the landing page for this course, it is also the project that we will be building. So within the landing page, we can find that we have the cart, then we have the hero section, and we have a bunch of other sections here, like the rich text section, some cards explaining the benefits of this course, and some of the technologies we'll be using. And then once we get to this section, we can see the products inside of the collection. And we can just click on any of the products, and we can see just how snappy this website is. Everything loads instantly without any delay. And then we have the image carousel here, and also the images load super quickly as well. Then we have the product form over here, where we have this custom option selector that just makes it a whole lot easier for customers to choose the color they want and the size. And then they can click on add to cart, and the cart opens up right away. Again, no delays anywhere, and this is all thanks to Next.js. And we can remove items from the cart, and the cart closes automatically. Then we can scroll down. We can see the description over here and some recommended products, which we can choose as well. And again, things load just instantly. There's pretty much zero delay because Next.js has already built these pages before we deploy them. So we can just click around on some of the products here, and it's just instant. Even going back to the home page, the website is already all preloaded for the customer. So there's nothing for the customer to load in addition to just the first build. And this is how we're able to make this such a modern e-commerce experience, hence the name here. And pretty much any website that is not on par with this right now will soon seem like it's very outdated. We can even go on a website like Best Buy as an example, and just select our country. And we can see kind of the speed difference. So for example, if we click on the product, we can see that the whole page needs to refresh. And a lot of things need to be loaded in addition to what was already loaded from the beginning. We can kind of see that it's even lagging a little bit just because there's so much going on, but also because the tech stack that was used for this is probably much older than what we will be building with. And clicking on another product, everything gets reloaded, and you can just feel this behemoth of a website kind of working behind the scenes, trying to, present everything to you. And the experience is pretty good, but in e-commerce, you want to make sure that everything is super snappy, especially for newer stores. You don't want to be losing any customers if they're browsing on kind of a slower internet connection. With a Next.js store, again, everything is super quick, and we can go into the product. They come up right away without any delay. We can add products. We can go down and add an additional product. And then everything is stored in local storage, so we can refresh this page and the cart stays with the customer. And then we can just quickly remove all the products, and everything is just super, super snappy and super quick on this website. Now, let's go into the next lecture where we're actually going to start setting up Next.js and building it out. I'll see you there. I'm super excited. So one of the main topics for this course is, of course, using Next.js. So let's go ahead and navigate to nextjs.org. And this is the landing page for Next.js, of course. And at the top here, we can see Vercel. And we're also going to be deploying Next.js using Vercel, which is kind of the parent company of Next.js. So if you're absolutely new to Next.js, let's quickly go over what it exactly is. So right from this homepage over here, we can see that Next.js is a React framework for production. And what that means is, in short, is that we get a lot more functionality with Next.js than we would with React. And Next.js has a nice short sentence here about what it is. So they say that Next.js gives you the best developer experience with all the features you need for production, like hybrid static and server rendering, TypeScript support, smart bundling, route prefetching, and more. No config needed. So we're not going to be using TypeScript for this course, but you can easily implement it into this project if you wish. So this is a pretty fancy sentence, but basically what it means is that the routing is super simplified. The bundling is very nice, especially for static site generation. And there's pretty much no configuration that we need to do in order for us to go into production. So a very seamless experience when using Next.js. I pretty much don't use regular React anymore. Everything I do is on Next.js. So let's go ahead into the documentation now. And it shows us a few ways to set it up. So first of all, the system requirement is that you need Node 12.0. So if you don't have this, please go ahead and install it. The current version here is 14.17.5, but I'm assuming everybody should have Node.js already installed. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip over this part of the course. So just click download and you should be good to go. The next step is to actually set it up. And as you can see here, we can just do npx create next app. So we don't actually need to install create next app because npx not only installs it for you, but it also creates your project. So you can do npx create next app and the name of your application. But what we're going to be doing is actually going to the Tailwind CSS documentation. And the way we get here is just from the homepage of tailwindcss.com. And we can go ahead and hit get started. And then we'll go into installation and click on Next.js. So Tailwind CSS has a pretty nice way to get a Next.js project started. So it's by saying npx create next app -e with Tailwind CSS and then the name of the project. And this is what we're going to be doing for this course. If this ever changes in the future, please use the original way and just follow the way to set up Tailwind CSS the regular way right here. Also keep in mind that for Tailwind CSS, you still need Node.js 12.13.0 or higher. And this is the way to set up Tailwind CSS just manually, but why do it manually when they literally give you a much easier way? So let's go ahead and copy this portion. And let's go ahead to our terminal. For my terminal, I'm using Hyper, which gives it this nice plain look. So let's go ahead now and navigate into the folder where you want to create your application. So I'm just going to bring it to the desktop. And now let's paste the line of code that we copied. And after this, we can give the application a name. And I'm going to name this Shopify Next.js. You can name it whatever you want. And let's hit enter and let it create an application for us. So this might take some time, so I'll see you when the installation is finished. So the application has just finished installing. So let's cd into shopify.next.js, which is what I named the application. And from here, if you have VS Code, you can just hit code dot. If you do not have VS Code, you can simply take this folder and just drag it into VS Code. An additional way is to just open VS Code and actually just open the folder inside of VS Code. So there's so many ways. I like to do code dot. If this doesn't work for you, then just use another way. But you should already know how to open a project with VS Code. So let's go ahead and hit enter. And as we can see, we have already Tailwind CSS installed here. We have post CSS and we have the auto prefixer, and these are all dependencies for Tailwind CSS. And we have the index.js file, which already uses Tailwind CSS, as you can see here. So let's go ahead and just hit npm run dev. And let's just copy this URL here. So npm run dev basically starts the Next.js server on our localhost 3000. So once it's compiled successfully, let's go ahead back inside of our browser and navigate to localhost 3000. And there we go. Next.js is now fully running and it's styled using Tailwind CSS out of the box. Fantastic. So we can make sure it's working by just deleting all of this now and just creating a simple div. And inside of this div, we'll just say hello from Shopify Next.js. And to make sure that Tailwind CSS is working, we're going to go ahead and enter class name equals, and we'll just say text extra large. And let's hit enter. And there we go. And we can also do 3XL, and it's working. Perfect. Now, if you have used Next.js in the past, you will notice that the styles folder is missing, and that's of course because we're using Tailwind CSS and we don't really need the styles folder. Other than that, this version of Next.js works exactly the same way that any other version of it would. But we also have the tailwind.config.js file and the postcss.config.js file. So before we continue any further, let's go ahead and install another dependency. So let's shut down our server and go back into our browser and navigate to headlessui.dev. And headlessui.dev is another great project by the Tailwind CSS team, which takes care of a lot of animations and a lot of different things for our components. So just go ahead and choose any component, go into installation, and let's go ahead and install this headless UI/React. Now we can just paste that into our terminal here. Fantastic. It's finished installing, and if we go into our package.json, we can see that the headless UI/React is installed now. And we're pretty much finished with our Next.js setup. So let's go ahead now into the next lecture where we're going to deal with the Shopify portion of this course. I'll see you there. The other big portion of this course is using Shopify. And we're going to be using Shopify for the CMS, but also for the checkout experience. And the reason we're choosing Shopify for this course as our e-commerce platform is because of ease of use, popularity, and the great developer experience and developer community. So let's go ahead and navigate to shopify.com/partners. And you can take a look at all of the additional perks over here and details about the Shopify Partners account. And whenever you're ready, let's go ahead and click Join Now and fill out all of your information here. And then once you do, I'll see you inside the dashboard. The other thing I want to mention before we jump into the dashboard is that you can have multiple Shopify Partners accounts. For example, I have one for my courses, an agency that I work with, my own agency where I work with merchants, and for my Shopify app. So this is very convenient when you have multiple teams that you're working with and you want to make sure that it kind of stays separated there. So if you just created your first Shopify Partners account, you're only going to have one. So let's go inside of the dashboard. And this is generally where you will land at the beginning. It might change sometime in the future, but everything should be pretty much the same. So let's go ahead and click into stores. And then let's go ahead and click Add Store. For this course, we're going to be dealing with the development store. The managed store is for an existing Shopify store that you want to request collaborator access to. So let's go ahead and click development store. And you can fill out the store name and it will automatically generate the store URL for you. Then your login information and your address and all those things. So once you fill that out, I'll see you inside of the store dashboard. So our store is now created, and I won't be discussing all of the tabs here because a lot of them are pretty self-explanatory and some of them are geared more towards the merchants. The ones we're going to be looking at in this course is the products tab and some of the online store tab. So we're not going to be using themes for this course because we're going to be creating our own complete custom headless CMS store. But a few things to keep in mind here is that we will be using navigation, and then you can connect your own domain to the store. And also the settings tab is pretty important for all of the settings for your store. But for now, let's go ahead into product. And obviously right now we don't have any products available in the store. So let's go ahead and click import. And with this course, you're going to receive a zip file with some of the assets you need for this course. Let's go ahead and click add file. And you should see this 3D products.csv file inside of your assets folder. And I have created some products for you to use for this course. So let's go ahead and click upload and continue. And let's import the product. And this might take a few minutes, so I'll see you when it's finished. Perfect. So the products are now imported. And let's go ahead and click into one of them and just explore how the product settings look like. So first of all, we have the title, obviously, the description, and some images here. And then we get down to variants. So a variant is basically an instance of the product. So for example, we have here white and small, and that's one variant, and then white and medium is another variant. And these are called options. So we have an option of a color, we have an option of a size. And as we can see here, we have many variants with all of the combinations of the colors and sizes. And then just down below, we have the SEO for the product, which contains the product handle. So let's go ahead and click into collections now. And we have this homepage collection created for us by default. If you do not have that created, go ahead and create one. So let's go ahead and click on it. And just down here, we can say browse products, and we can just click all of our products into this collection. And then we have an option to sort them. And let's go ahead and sort them manually. And we can just change the order around a little bit. And then we also have this SEO portion for the collections as well. And if we click on edit website SEO, we can see down here that we also have the handle for our collection. And we're going to need this when we actually reference this collection inside of our homepage in our store. So just keep this in mind for now. And the next step is to go into the apps tab. And just down here where it says working with the developer on your shop, we have a link to manage private apps. So let's click that. And if you just created a brand new store, you need to enable app development. So let's go ahead and click all of these and click enable private app development. And then let's click on create private app. And now let's give this app a name, and I'm just going to name it Next.js connection and put in your email address here. And then let's go down a little bit, and we do not need access to the admin API. For this course, we will be using the Storefront API. So let's click on allow this app to access your storefront data. And we have some stuff pre-selected already here, like read products, variants, and collections. We can also get access to read product tags and read inventory of products. So if you're creating a store that has products that go out of inventory quite often, you can use this to check if that product is in stock. But for us, we're just going to click save and create this private app. So the private app was created successfully. And if we go all the way down, we'll be able to see the storefront access token generated for us. We're going to need this in a second, but for now, let's go back inside of our code. And inside of the root directory, make sure that you click somewhere like outside of any folder to make sure you're in the root. And let's create a new file called .env.local. And inside of this file, let's create a few variables. The first one will be Shopify Storefront Access Token. And we can just leave this empty for now. And the next one will be Shopify Store Domain. And we can also leave this empty for now. And let's go back over here and grab our Shopify domain, which is everything over here. So let's click copy here and we'll just paste this in there. And then let's also copy the storefront access token and also paste this inside of our env file. Now let's hit save here and we can close this env file now. The next thing we'll need to do is also inside of our root folder here, let's create a new file called next.config.js. And we need to make sure that we're accessing the env variables properly, because sometimes they will not work if we don't specify them in the Next.js config. So let's go ahead here and type in module.exports equals, and we'll create a new object. And inside of here, we'll say env colon and open up a new object. And we'll say Shopify store domain. And we're going to make this equal to process.env.Shopify store domain. And then we'll say Shopify Storefront access token. And we'll make this equals to process.env.Shopify Storefront access token. And let's just make sure we didn't make any typos. Okay, perfect. So while we're inside of the next.config.js file, let's also create a config for images. Since some of the images we're going to be accessing are not from our application, but since they're from an external source, we need to specify this to make sure that Next.js is handling our images properly and is able to optimize them. So let's put a comma and we'll say images. And we'll specify that we want the domains for the images to be from cdn.shopify.com. And this is where Shopify is going to be storing all of our product images and anything else that's actually coming from our store. So let's hit save on that as well. And we're pretty much finished with setting up the Shopify side of this application now. In the next lecture, we're going to dive into GraphQL and start making some queries to our store and working with the graphical interface that's available to us through Shopify as well. So I'll see you in the next lecture.